Welcome to another episode of Wine Guide TV. My name is Ben Edwards and this is Dan Sims, and today it's all about bubbles.
All about bubbles, a bit of a Spring Racing Carnival special. So why not have a look at a few different styles, a few different types, different price points to get you ready for the big festival that is the Melbourne Carnival.
Melbourne Spring Racing Carnival.
Absolutely.
Sparkling wine doesn't just come from Champagne, even though we tend to just call sparkling wine Champagne, don't we?
Yeah, well, if it's not from Champagne, it ain't Champagne.
That's amazing.
It's amazing.
That is amazing. So what we're going to do is go to Spain, New Zealand, a bit of Australia, and then finally we'll finish ourselves off
with a bit of bling.
The bling.
The bling. You've got to have a bit of bling, especially when you're talking about champagne. But look, to start us off, we're going to talk about this nice little entry level, a little easy drinking, great value, probably around a $20 retail style of wine. The Segura Vieiras Cava. Now, Cava from Penedès in Spain. I feel like I could be speaking with a lisp. But look, it's got a blend of three different grape varieties, Parellada, Macabeo and Xarello. Okay, so this...
Easy for you to say?
It's with a lisp.
With a lisp.
But look, this particular style, you're almost seeing that sort of baked apple kind of character, don't you? You sort of tend to see those sort of, still quite fresh, a little bit of texture, but it's a little bit different. It's not sort of, that dry style you tend to see.
They're a bit sort of lemony but savoury at the same time, and they're not exactly what you might expect to see with sparkling wines, because we're quite used to a style, but this is a little bit different, and they are using the native grape varieties of Spain, and they are very affordable. Cava, and it's not like the Fijian Cava, it's quite different. Okay.
Yeah, it doesn't make your whole tongue go numb, which is
numb.
Really weird. Moving on, New Zealand.
How many points for that, Dan?
Well, it's probably at 87. It's an easy drinking style, something a little bit different. Low on the I suppose point scale, but in terms of
pretty
drinkability, high on drinkability.
Completely
you can
understand.
Have 2 or 3 glasses of that and maybe still be okay.
So we're going to move over to the South Island of New Zealand, to Marlborough, where yes, we know lots of Sauvignon comes from, but they also make terrific fizz over there, and Dirts, whatever you want to call it, over there, they're making this beautiful wine. It's Blanc de Blanc, 100% Chardonnay, 2006 vintage. That's what Blanc de Blanc means, by the way, white of whites. 100% Chardonnay, and it's all about acid, lemony, tangy, vibrant fruit. 100%
Chardonnay sparkling wines I'm a massive fan of, and again you're seeing that lovely sort of freshness, dryness, complexity element to it. It's just a lovely, and also probably almost a food wine sort of style.
Funny you should say that, but that first one is like the cold meat type of thing. This one is all about oysters. Okay, and if you're thinking oysters and it's the right time of the year for it, that will be an absolute, just like squeezing a bit of lemon on top of the oyster, that would go a treat.
Now, moving on.
This is Aussie Bling.
Aussie Bling. Now, in terms of Australian sparkling, Arras, you probably go so far to say it doesn't really get much better. Ed Carr, who's the winemaker of this, he is a genius when it comes to sparkling wine in Australia.
May have said that before.
May have said that before, but still, it's an epic sort of style of wine, isn't it?
It is. It's 2003, 7-year-old base wine, obviously, and so what we're seeing is the introduction of really toasty complexity and also much more creaminess on the palate. So while it's still really lovely, fresh, vibrant, lemony fruit, and that's always a really important thing, chalky acidity, lemony fruit, but the other stuff that starts to come through is that brioche, almost like fresh butter on brioche, and starting to get some of those grilled nut characters. Now, this is a very complex wine, stands up next to the best of France with ease, consummate ease in fact, and is a beautiful wine. But it also, it's in the same sort of price category. These wines are expensive to make, and Ed Carr, as you say, is a genius, doing a great job.
And I think in terms of that sort of benchmarking sort of style, it is, as you said, you're paying a little bit more for it, but the time, effort and energy that goes into these styles of wine, you really do get rewarded with a fantastic glass of fizz. So if you're looking for an Australian example for a little bit of bling, giddy up.
Now that particular wine is a gold medal wine, 95 points. You could even probably push it into 96 because it's right up there. What we're going to do, because you mentioned style before, and because Champagne is all about style, Paul Roger is one of my favourite houses. They're accessible wines, they've got enough complexity, but they're also fresh enough that they provide all that I want from non-vintage champagne.
Well, these non-vintage champagne is really very much about that. The whole idea of the champagne houses. It's about they want to get you in from the minute you're born, really, to have that sort of style. From
cradle to grave, mate.
Cradle to grave. That's what I'm looking for. But it's just that lovely style. So consistency is what non-vintage champagne is all about. Paul Roger. Hey, if it was good enough for Winston Churchill,
it's good enough for you.
It's good enough for me.
The other thing too is that this is a non-vintage wine. It shouldn't be 96 points, but it easily is in that sort of 92, 93. And points are almost, they're not even really necessary because it's about finding the style that works for you. Pol is a style that will suit just about every palate, and that's one of the reasons we love going to it.
Well, that's actually because you got that sort of that freshness and that dry character that you really want, and that almost that aperitif style that you want with champagne, but also at the same time you want that little bit of complexity and sort of toasty. So it's in that sort of light to medium bodied style of champagne.
Now, the other end of the spectrum from non-vintage is vintage champagne. We're going to look at one of the most beautiful bottles in the market.
Absolutely.
Perrier-Jouet's Belle Epoque, 2002 vintage, a very young wine. Young wine at 8 years of age. That's quite amazing. It's starting to develop those characteristics, those toasty characters, and that beautiful texture. It's really, really lovely, creamy, but it's about finesse, isn't it? It's power and finesse.
There's line to that wine, which I really love, and there's an elegance to it. And sometimes in comparison, when you look at it, different styles, you're going to see some that are a little bit richer, a little bit more weight. But this, you could probably overlook it, in a sort of a blind lineup. But because it's got that subtle complexity to it, that makes it takes it up that extra level.
And also the power builds on this.
Yeah.
Now, if you were, the sort of person that likes to drive around in really fast, expensive cars, this might be the one for you. Because let's face it, it's got the bling factor, but beyond that, it also delivers. It's like driving the really cool car, but it's also the car that goes well.
Absolutely.
And that you can rely on.
Super
5 very different sparkling wines.
Enjoy
Giddy
the
up.
Spring Racing Carnival. Giddy up.
Go the GGs.
Cheers.